Welcome to Elliptigo's online support videos. In this video, we'll repackage the Arc. Start with the Arc on the kickstand. We'll go front to back, so wrap a piece of the bubble wrap around each of the grips on the handlebars, around the brake lever and the shifter unit, and secure with a zip tie. This doesn't have to be overly tight, but secure enough where the bubble wrap stays in place. Next, fold the bubble tape in half and wrap around the stem on the handlebars. The stem connects the handlebars to the steering column and secure with the zip tie. Your bike should look like this at this point. Now, place the foam over the frame of the Arc. There should be a longer and a shorter piece. The shorter piece goes up towards the front, the longer piece goes towards the rear. If you wish, secure either with a zip tie or tape. Next, on the non-drive side, so the side opposite the chain, wrap bubble tape around the crank arm and then rotate the crank arm around to secure the bubble tape in place. You do not have to use a zip tie, but you can if you'd like. Now use a zip tie to secure the crank against the frame so that the cranks can no longer rotate. Folding bubble tape around, secure each clevis, that's the joint where the swing arm and the drive arm meet. Simply use a zip tie to secure this to the clevis. Make sure you do both sides. Again, just wrap bubble tape around each clevis, the piece between the swing arm and the drive arm. Now your bike should look like this, so far with the packaging on. Disengage the front brake noodle and remove the front wheel. The bike will now balance on the drive arms, or on the clevis axle, and the fork. So the bike should be balanced, still on the ground. Now, put the cardboard piece on the front wheel with the tension nut sticking out and secure in place the little rubber protector with a piece of foam on the tension nut of the front wheel. You can put your kickstand up now. The bike should still be balanced. Wrap a piece of bubble wrap around the chainstay on the non-drive side, so the frame piece on the opposite side of the chain. Just go ahead and wrap it around the frame there. And then you'll place your front wheel with the foam protector against the frame of the Arc. It'll just lay right up against the frame and the bubble tape you just put on. Holding in place, you're going to secure the front wheel to both pieces of the frame. So slide a zip tie through the front wheel, underneath the frame, the chainstay, on the non-drive side there, so it goes underneath the bubble wrap. Feed that through, and then secure with the zip tie on the outside of the wheel. Put another zip tie through the front part of the wheel, going underneath the crank arm that you bubble wrapped earlier, between the crank arm and the frame, and secure with the zip tie, again wrapping the zip tie on the outside of the tire. Go ahead and secure those down. The wheel should now be in position against the frame and secured. Take two zip ties and attach them together, and do that again so that you have two separate zip ties that are attached together. Remove your steering column from the frame of the Arc. Open the quick release lever, pull out the safety index pin, and fully remove the steering column from the Arc. Slide the protective foam piece over the steering extender. You can secure with a zip tie if you wish. We're now going to put the steering column and handlebars underneath the frame of the Arc. This will go so that the grips and the brake levers and shifter lever will face the outside. So on the drive side, the part with the chain, those will face out. Slide the steering extender underneath the frame of the Arc. Take one of your groups of zip ties, wrap it around the steering extender and the frame, and secure. It's a little bit awkward. You may need someone to help hold it in place, but essentially you're just going to secure the steering extender so that the handlebars are underneath the bike but facing the chain side. You do not need to secure this super tight because you may need to move them a little bit when you insert the bike into the box. Put another set of the zip ties towards the rear of the steering extender and secure down to the frame. So now your handlebars are underneath the frame of the Arc. You can use another zip tie to secure what would be the front brake grip to the swing arm of the non-drive side, so the side opposite the chain. But again, do not secure too tight because you may need to move those when you put the bike in the box. This is the most important part, using the plastic fork protector in the bottom of the fork in the dropouts. We're going to secure this using 2 zip ties tied together. Slide the zip tie underneath the plastic fork protector and then through the brake post on the fork itself, not through the brake pad, but the actual post, and then secure nice and tight. You do not want this fork protector to fall out during shipping because fork damage can occur, and then there may be a cost associated with that. Next, use a piece of the bubble wrap and insert the fork inside the bubble wrap, also covering the front brakes. Once you have the bubble wrap over the fork and brakes, you're going to rotate the fork counterclockwise if you're facing it, so that the brakes are actually facing underneath the Arc, so facing the handlebars. Again, you want to rotate the fork counterclockwise or around so that the brakes are facing under the bike. Also note that the brake noodle is not pinched under the frame. The brake noodle should just be wrapped around without being caught or pulled underneath the frame. Use the foam plug at the top of the steering collar and push down. Then take a piece of bubble wrap and place it over the top of the steering collar and secure with a zip tie. Your front block and your rear block inside the bike box. Place one hand on the swing arm axle and one on the rear wheel and lift up, placing the bike in the box, lowering the fork down first into the front block and the rear wheel into the rear block. So your fork leg should be seated in the front block, and then your rear wheel should be seated in the rear block. Almost done. We need a couple more zip ties. First, take one single zip tie and loop it around towards the back portion of the rear wheel. And just leave it hanging out in a little loop. Take another zip tie, and on the forward portion of the rear wheel, so closer to the chain keeper, put another zip tie. Again, just a nice big loop. Let it hang out for a second. Then, place the foam block over the rear wheel. It'll stay in place. Use a zip tie to run through the first loop, the one closest to the chain, and make another big loop with a zip tie. Feeding the fourth zip tie through that loop, grabbing the first one on the back of the rear wheel, and securing the block into place. This will help keep the bike from lifting up if the bike were to shift in transit or get turned upside down. This block prevents that from occurring. So secure the block down so that it's not able to move freely about during shipment. Then place the front foam block so that the concave cone is actually angling up, so away from the front of the bike towards the rear of the bike. and push down into place. After that, fold up the flaps, secure, and your arc is ready for shipping.